size of the monitor. Hey everyone, Digital David here. Today in this video, I'm going to be checking out the Sceptre 24-inch edgeless curved monitor. I did receive this product to review, but any opinion expressed in this video is strictly my own. That being said, if you're interested in this product, you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. You can see the retail box and packaging right here. Check it out. Everything looks great. They walk you through some of the key tech specs and features. So this is a 24-inch edgeless display. So we have a really narrow and thin bezel. 24 inches is measured diagonally, 75 hertz for the refresh rate, 1920 by 1080p full HD for the resolution, 5 millisecond response time, and we have built-in speakers. Now let's go ahead, let's open it up and look at the contents. Here are all the contents. First up, you can see we have our product literature right here with our warranty information. This does come with a 1-year warranty. You can also see we have a really nice and detailed and thorough user guide and manual, complete with all of Sceptre's customer service and contact information for you, whether you want to reach out via email or by phone. They have your stand installation instructions right here. This is also VESA mount 75 by 75 if you're interested and you want to use your own stand. Then they walk you through the menu buttons and controls on the monitor, as well as all of our different input options. So we have HDMI, VGA, and our headphone jack, as well as our power plug right there. Different connection options depending on the computer or device that you're using. Then they even walk you through the menu step by step, everything in full detail. Different resolution settings for you as well. So if you want to use VGA, 1080p, 60 and 75 hertz, HDMI 1080p, so 60 and 75 hertz as well. Troubleshooting section for you. So really thorough, detailed. They have everything you need right there in that book. Then you can see we have our power supply and adapter right here. If you've ever used a Sceptre product before, you'll love these. They give you a nice Phillips head screwdriver that comes with every monitor. We have our screws for stand installation. You can see we have some cable management clips, an included HDMI cable right here. Here are the two pieces of our stand. And lastly, we have the monitor. Let's go ahead, let's look at the monitor in more detail. Here's a look at the monitor from the back. Check it out, we got the Sceptre logo and branding right here. We have all the different menu control buttons and our power button front and center. We also have our clearly labeled input options for us from HDMI to VGA, our headphone jack, and our power. There's our VESA mount 75 by 75 millimeter, and we have our cover right here for the included stand, so you can see how that looks. We'll look at it from the top-down angle too, so you can get a feel for that 1500R curvature. So just a really slight, minimal bend to it. And then you may notice too on the design, it's really thick at the bottom, super thin up at the top right here. So keep that in mind too. You can see very thin, like 2/4 thin, and then it's a lot thicker down here where probably all the components are. Maybe you'll see that a little bit better from the side. You can get a feel for that, but it's also rounded and curved that way too. We'll flip it over so you can see the bottom where we have our speakers and some venting with some additional product information. And now we can look at it from the front side right here. We do have our protective film on it still, but you may notice we have the Sceptre logo and branding down here. And you can see we have a little HDMI sticker, 75 hertz for our frame rate. But pay attention, you can see how narrow those bezels are. It really is just about a frameless monitor. Now let's go ahead, let's get this stand installed. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna align the pole at a 45-degree angle. So somewhere like that on the stand, and then you're gonna twist it in place. This took me a good 5 or 6 minutes because for some reason, it just wasn't lining up properly with the plastic and the grooves. So just make sure you take your time, don't force it, line everything up, and then just twist in place. I literally had to set this on the ground to make sure I could wiggle it, line it up, and then use my foot on the bottom, and then twist it in. But we do have it twisted in now. It's lined up properly. This isn't going to go anywhere, but we need to take one of the 3 included screws, fasten that in place as well. And then the last step is we're going to remove this cover right here. Then we're going to take our assembled stand, and you can see it's going to slide right in there just like so. And now we have the last 2 remaining screws we're going to fasten in place right there. And then we can go ahead and we can put the cover back on. Now you can see we got the stand fully assembled right here. So check it out. Let's go over the features. So this is a very basic and generic stand. There's no height adjustment. It's going to be at this fixed height. So if you want to adjust the height, get a separate stand, or you have to use some books or something. And there is a slight tilt adjustment back. So you can do a little bit of a tilt back There's no tilt forward, there's no swivel rotation or anything else besides you actually literally just physically moving the whole thing, which isn't that big of a deal because this monitor is so light, and they do give us that VESA mount option if you want to incorporate your own stand that maybe has those features that it's missing. Now let's go ahead, let's power it on and look at the menu. Now you can see we got the monitor plugged in and powered on. Let's bring up the menu settings right here. You can see the different menu options we have: quick start, picture, color, and system. Let's just cycle through these really quickly because Sceptre does a great job in the user guided manual walking through all the individual settings and what everything means. But you can see quick start right here. We can choose our different picture presets. We can also quickly adjust the volume of the built-in speakers, aspect ratio, change the source, HDMI or VGA, and we also have our blue light shift if we want to turn that on or off depending on if we're sensitive and our eyes are sensitive to blue light. You want to make that adjustment, you can do that right here very quickly. Now let's go back, let's look at our picture setting really quick. So let's bring that up. You can see our presets again, DCR, aspect ratio, and we have our sharpness right there that we can control. Next up, we have our color options. Let's go ahead, let's choose our different colors. So you can see our temperature, gamma, we have our tint, our saturation, and then there's the blue light setting again, easily accessible. And then lastly, you can see we have our system settings right here. Sleep mode, language, our OSD, H position. You can see timer, transparency. There's no crosshairs if you're wondering. Volume, mute. We have our product info, and we can quickly reset everything. Pay attention up here if you didn't notice already. You can see we're getting 1920 by 1080p, full HD at 75 Hertz. You also may notice we have the same thing pulled up right here on Windows. You can see that we are truly getting 75 Hertz. We just had to go into our advanced display settings and choose 75 Hertz from the list of available options. Now I wanted to spend a minute to look at the picture quality and settings in more detail. So first up, you can see we have our standard preset selected. Now we're gonna go ahead, we have our user one. That's where we can fully customize everything right here. Then you can see we have our movie mode selected, followed by our eco mode, then our FPS, RTS, and then back to standard. So you can see as we cycle through that again, how each one is gonna tweak the picture quality and settings right here. So you can get a feel for if you want to take it on a case-by-case basis for whatever content you're consuming or game that you're playing. You can pick and choose what one looks best to you and your needs. And don't forget, we also have the user preset so we can configure everything ourselves. But we'll cycle through again really quickly here. So you can see they do change the picture. It just depends what you're after. Best place to start is choose the correct preset depending on what you're doing, like watching a movie, playing an FPS game, that sort of thing, and then configure it from there. You can even take those settings, put it into the user setting, and then tweak it a little bit further to your own preferences. Now let's talk about this monitor and its color accuracy. So first thing I want to point out is Sceptre advertises 98% sRGB, but with that being said, I don't know what they're advertising. Is that our coverage or is that our volume? So it does make a difference because you'll see in our results right here, we have two different values. Typically, if you're a colorist or you just need to have a really color accurate monitor, you'll be looking at the coverage results. So in this case, we got 93.6% sRGB, so that's lower than the 98% advertised. But if they were marketing their gamut volume, you can see we got 99.8% sRGB. Technically, that's actually overachieving what they advertise. But stick with the coverages here. You can see what we got. If you're wondering about the Adobe RGB, we got 68%. And then for our DCI P3, we got 70.7%. Now let's talk about the brightness with this monitor. I couldn't find the information advertised anywhere. I'm sure it's floating around and I just missed it. But for this particular monitor, when we booted it up, we're showing around 250 nits for the brightness. I'm sure it's within that 200 to 300 range. Really quickly, I wanted to show you how changing the brightness really affects the image quality on the display. So check it out. We're at 0 brightness right now with 100% backlight. Watch what happens to the blue in the backdrop as we continue to increase our brightness. Check that out. Crazy how much it really starts to change how the picture looks. Obviously, we could turn the backlight down, but that's not going to solve the issue that you see here. That can only be adjusted by adjusting the brightness to a level that you're comfortable with. So just keep that in mind. You'll never be using this monitor at 100% brightness, or at least, in my opinion, you never should be. Now I wanted to show you just a simple test here browsing the web. So check it out. We got YouTube pulled up. We're looking at the trending page. Just look how everything looks very clear, crisp, vibrant, no issues, sputtering, nothing's lagging or anything like that as we browse all the content YouTube has to offer. Also wanted to show you if you wanted to use this monitor, again, you're looking at maybe some news articles, you're browsing the web, doing web work, that sort of thing. We have The Verge pulled up. This is a popular tech blog. So you can see, again, look at all the different images, colors, titles that we have, fonts that are used. Everything's super clear and crisp. Let's go ahead. Let's just click on an article. So again, you can see what this is actually like and how you're going to be able to use this monitor in the real world, but everything looks great. It's working just fine. And then lastly, we have a popular e-commerce site. You can see we have Amazon pulled up. Check it out. Really enjoyable experience having that 24-inch display with the slight curve to browse the web. Now you're listening to the raw audio coming from the speakers. This is at 100 for the volume, so they're not very loud. I would say they're very faint and muffled, but go ahead, give it a listen. So about what you'd expect with computer monitor speakers at this price point. Now we got our UFO test pulled up on the display right now, showing us different FPS values. This is a great way to see the difference that a higher refresh rate monitor makes. So compared to some traditional monitors out there in the market that still only come with 60 Hertz, you can see how having the extra 15 Hertz allows us to push an extra 15 FPS to get that much smoother footage. So you can see 75 FPS at the top, followed by 38 in the middle, and 19 at the bottom. That would continue on, right? If we had 120 Hertz refresh rate with 120 FPS, then 144, 165, 240, etc. The higher FPS you can push, that'll depend on your system, and the higher the refresh rate of your monitor, that'll depend on the physical hardware of your monitor, the smoother your gameplay footage will look. Now let's talk about ghosting artifacts with this particular display. Now keep in mind, especially at this price point, you are going to have ghosting artifacts. It's just about unavoidable regardless of the display that you're using. For this particular test, you can see the results that we got on the screen right now. We were using a pursuit camera on rails. We had a little trouble with the curvature of this display too. We tried to get the best photos that we could for you guys with the capabilities of our equipment. So you can see on the screen, don't worry so much about it being out of focus. That's not what matters here, that blurriness. What matters really is what can you see, what extra artifacts are present, ghosting, that sort of thing. So this is going to be a real world sample and result for you. You will have some ghosting and extra artifacts on the display, but keep in mind for the casual gamer, this isn't a deal breaker. Sure, if you have a really keen eye and you're sensitive to this stuff and it really bothers you, chances are you're not looking at this monitor anyways. So now it's time for my favorite test. We're going to be measuring the input lag on this monitor. Now keep in mind, input lag is different from response time. Response time is the amount of time it takes a pixel to change from color to color, black to white, gray to gray, that sort of thing. Input lag is the amount of lag or delay between when you issue a command, click your mouse, that sort of thing, and when it's displayed on the screen. So for this test, we have a fancy tool here. We line it right up in this corner, up at the top, and now you can see our results right here. So we're showing 0.9 milliseconds for our input lag. That is fantastic for Sceptre monitors. That's the lowest I've ever seen. Usually the ones that I've been measuring come in around, I would say, 18 or 19 milliseconds, whereas most other monitors usually fall around the 1 to 2 millisecond range. So it's great to see that we're getting fantastic, basically near zero input lag here with 0.9 to 1 milliseconds for our lag. Now it's time to see some gaming in action. So check it out. We got Fortnite pulled up on our display. This is the audio you're hearing from the built-in speakers, again, at max volume. So that's the sample you're going to get for this video. We're also playing on console. This will work with PlayStation or Xbox. We have a PlayStation 5 connected right here. Obviously, it'll just be at 1080p. But check out the quality. We're going to move around, do some quick movement and motion right here. Not trying to make you dizzy. But check that out. We're going to move really fast, really quick, back and forth, so you can pay attention to how the motion and movement looks. So far, so good. Really impressive, if you ask me. Look at that. And we just have the standard picture settings on the monitor right now, in case you're wondering. And 1080p for our resolution. Oops. Got him! Let's go! Come on! Come on, got him! Got him! Come on! Thank you! Got him! Let's go, baby! All because of the monitor. Here we go, we're loading in. Check out the visuals right here. If you're still contemplating, should I get a curved screen or stick with the flat screen, I would say with this minimal curvature, it's not a big deal. Go with whatever you think you'd like best. But if you're concerned about not liking the curve, that won't be the case. I can tell you right now, you'll enjoy the curve. Especially with the dual monitor setup, you'll appreciate having that slight curve. But look at this. Here we go. Should we try to follow this guy? I don't know where they went. Alright, let's have some fun, baby. We driving.
Gas is right on your tail. The squad mates are all KIA. Keep fighting.
Come on! No! No, look at that! So as you can clearly see, it's kind of like buying golf clubs. You can have the nicest golf clubs in the world, but you're still going to stink at golf. Same can be said with computer monitors. It's really going to be up to you and your talent and skill level and how often and how many hours you play and practice the games. So the monitor's only going to be able to do so much. The rest of it's going to fall on you. And clearly you can see no monitor is going to be able to help fix my lack of skill. Now let me share with you my final thoughts in regards to this Sceptre monitor. There's a couple things I want to say. My experience and perspective is coming from somebody that's been using Sceptre monitors for years, and my main primary monitor for my video editing PC is still a Sceptre 49-inch ultra-wide monitor, and I use that daily. So I can speak to the experience and longevity of their panels. I've only had good things to say. I've had 0 dead pixels, no failures whatsoever on ports, power supplies, or anything like that. I don't want to jinx it here in this video, but that's my honest experience over the course of years in multiple SKUs. So in regards to this particular monitor, here's what I want to say. First thing I want to say is typically when you buy a Sceptre monitor, they usually give you the best bang for your buck, so you can really stretch your dollar and budget if you purchase a Sceptre monitor. What do I mean by that? Well, with this particular monitor and most of the other Sceptre monitors, usually at a baseline you get 75 Hertz versus 60, which is great. Usually they give you at least 2 HDMI ports and then maybe a legacy port or an additional port, display port, DVI, VGA, things along those lines. They have built-in speakers and they're VESA mount compatible. All that's true with this particular monitor except the ports and I/O. This one's actually lacking compared to all the other Sceptre monitors that I've encountered. This one only has 1 HDMI and 1 VGA. It's not the end of the world, but I'd like to see another HDMI port and just have a couple more input options, especially because I know they do that with all their other monitors. Next thing I want to say is I'm not a big fan of the stand. It's really basic and lacking most features. So there's no ability to adjust the height and there's no swivel rotation or anything like that. I wish the stand allowed us to, rotate the monitor 90 degrees so we could do a portrait viewing experience, especially if we wanted to use this for like stream chat. If you want to do data entry, things like that, it would be great to have that right out of the box with the stand that's included so you don't have to get an additional stand. But rest assured, you do have the VESA mount option if you do do have your own stand, then that's not going to be an issue for you at all. So I feel like the story of this monitor is curves and compromises. So with this particular monitor, you're sacrificing a higher refresh rate to get that slight curvature. Is that worthwhile to you? Only you can answer that, but here's my take on it. If the curve is not essential to you, I would recommend checking out other Sceptre monitors that are on the market that are around this price point that don't have a curve, but they'll have that higher refresh rate for you. If your system can handle it, you will really appreciate having that more so than the curve. But where the curve becomes more attractive, in my opinion, is if you're planning to do like a dual or triple monitor setup, you're on a budget, you'll appreciate having that slight curvature to enhance your viewing experience.